Welcome back and watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Now, war on corruption is considered a priority, a top priority that is, for the incoming administration. It was also a headline campaign mantra. This week, the President-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari, says all public office holders must declare their assets before taking office and also before leaving office. He also wants outgoing public officials to declare their assets. Abimbola Agboluaje is a consultant on governance and economic policy and is live in the studios with me now to discuss this issue. Good morning and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Let's start with the issue of the culture of assets declaration in Nigeria. It goes way back. But why is it that public officials are usually reluctant to declare their assets publicly?
It's a bit of a paradox because declaring assets doesn't mean you'll be corrupt. So you now wonder why they're not declaring it. I like to say that Nigerians have over 55 years history of successfully hiding stolen money. So I'm a bit skeptical about what asset declaration can do or not do. I think it's you need to do much more to combat corruption in Nigeria, which is a culture, a widespread system of government. Asset declaration will be too little to handle it. We need our signals that the government understands what a task is and what it needs to do. It requires much more than asset declaration.
So when you say it requires much more than asset declaration, you talked about the fact that corruption, is deep within the system. So a lot of Nigerians have had innovative ways of hiding, so to speak, hiding their assets, so to speak, either using other means, or fashioning or putting it on person. Exactly, so having fronts for it. But if you're looking at where the president-elect is coming, the incoming administration is coming from, and his track record in terms of stamping out corruption, so to speak, do you think that there's a possibility that he might get things done quickly?
Yeah, he has a chance to get things done. He has the reputation. He has a strong mandate. It reminds me of Obasanjo again. This is another opportunity in Nigeria to get things right. But you need the right ideas to do it. It's not by slogans. When you talk about asset declaration, I said and I'll say again, Nigerians over the years have known how to take government money and had it very well. It's interesting to note that increasingly Nigerian lawyers, they're becoming experts in masking ownership of assets, companies, and so on. And it's gotten so bad that UK lawyers are coming to the top to also do that for Nigeria, setting up trust abroad. So the gains you can have from asset declaration is just too minimal. And I think it also comes from a mindset that it's only the biggest ministers that are corrupt. So if you're able to get them to declare their assets, probably 7 or 8 people at 10 at most, you can now match what they could have post the position with what they declared. Corruption is so widespread. That's addressing a very small part of it, and not with the smartest tool. It's good to look at the culture, the system of corruption, different types of corruption, and what you need to do. If I want to classify corruption in Nigeria, you look at political corruption, which is where you think asset declaration may work a bit. You look at administrative or bureaucratic corruption, people exploiting regulations. For instance, you're regulating banks or industries, you're allowing them to do what they're not supposed to do, and you look the other way. There's a lot of money to be made from that. When you look at economic, financial corruption, again, in the banking system, the way people move money around.
Generally, financial services sector.
Yeah, exactly. It's all linked. But the tools to combat each has to be specific. For political corruption, the biggest thing you can do is to take the billions off the table with reforms, liberalization of massive sectors. Some wouldn't, have the chance to award all licenses for bribes or supervise stealing of billions with a false subsidy is if the power is not even there, if false subsidies are not even there. So the rhetoric that we need to hear from the government and the plans need to, go to the heart of reforming government. It's a much more tougher task than just saying asset declaration.
So in trying to get to the heart now, should asset declaration be legal, moral, or even a civil service requirement?
It's something you do, put in the kitty and move away and face more systemic tasks.
But then you see the issue is that you have people who would definitely fight this. In spite of the change that we're hoping it will come, bring with it, there will definitely be people who will fight this. So you just want to clean it up, put it in the kitty and move on to something else. Hey.
So more strategic goals.
No, it's not going to be an easy walk in the park.
Well, they will not have an option. The government, the president wants it, has a very strong mandate. What we need to remind ourselves of are the bigger tasks. You could ask me, what are the bigger tasks? Civil service reforms. You need to pay people a bit more. Then you need to start the fast, smarter way of punishing corruption. How many people are stealing big money in Nigeria, either by stealing directly or misusing regulatory powers? How many of them do you want to start pursuing? And their actions have different effects. Some deter investors. If you look at the education and health sector, it means people are not in school. Monies for school buildings are embezzled, for hospitals. How many people are going to declare their assets? If you punish consequences of corruption without looking at corruption, and you build systems to do that, you have a far better chance of, combating corruption. Let me give you an instance. A building collapses, and you and I know quite well that buildings collapse not because Nigerians don't know how to build, but because people cut corners. The agencies of government whose responsibility it is to supervise buildings, you know what they're doing. So each time a building collapses, make sure you do you audit performance. Why has this happened? And make sure you get people sacked. Make sure people, when you start digging, so why were you able to do this? You start investigating. You tend to know that people have taken bribes. Even if they're not taking, but that's it. They don't do the job very well. Let them go. If you start, punishing the consequences of corruption, those are in the open. Everywhere you look in Nigeria, people take their jobs more seriously.
Now, talking about the roles of agencies, supervisory agencies, let's talk about the role now of ICPC and of course the EFCC in ensuring compliance and prevent false asset declarations, as the case may be.
Okay, EFCC, that's very interesting. EFCC has been overburdened. If you look at the history of EFCC, it started when there were a lot of funny money, black money in the Nigerian financial system. It was affecting the credibility of our financial system externally. And we're going to start getting punished for it. Assets, people can't, there are going to be a lot of restrictions placed on banking transactions in Nigeria. That's why it's set up. It's like the serious fraud office in the UK. It came to life after, I think, the Roswell report of 1983, when it was found out that the credibility of the City of London, the world financial center, was being compromised by a series of fraud scandals in the financial sector. That's why they said that's for something quite specific. You don't expect to use it to combat political crimes and all sorts of economic crimes outside the financial system. It's not going to work for you very well. So, if they're too overburdened, they're less effective, it becomes less elite.
Okay, now that we see a lot of attention is being paid to public assets declaration, everybody seems to be forgetting that we also have to have private assets declaration, because somehow or the other, it could move. So, in looking at it now, what would you say are the benefits of public assets declaration as against private asset declaration.
What do you mean by private assets declaration, please?
Because we have the private sector aside of the public sector.
Okay.
So we're looking at it vis-a-vis in tandem. They both work together because we have a lot of these officials coming out from the public sector into the private sector, and some from the private sector into the public sector.
Okay. You have to be careful. You don't build a police state. You can't start asking people to declare assets and MD of a private company or a public company.
But you're moving from the private sector to the public sector, and you're coming into an administration that has said no to corruption, and from the day you come in, you must declare your assets, whether from whichever part of the sector you're coming from, and the day you're leaving office, you must declare. So how is this going to work? How is this going to, rub off on the individuals who are coming in?
I keep insisting there isn't a lot of gains to be had in declaring public assets. If you're declaring your assets publicly, people will only get smarter. Listen to your business editor who spoke about the need to get a very credible cabinet in place. It's an interesting, most of the things you need, a lot of the things you need to combat corruption are not explicitly running after people. But by the time you appoint a well-structured cabinet, you pass it up. You are emitting very strong signals that this is about work. We're focused. The aspect of the challenge of rebuilding the administration of government in Nigeria, the presidency has to have a much stronger policy unit. So if you have, a focused cabinet, it's coherent, it's not a 30-man or 40-man cabinet, and the policies that each ministry will pursue has been designed by a very strong presidency. There's a lot of less space to be fooling around and stealing money.
Okay.
That's a powerful signal.
Abimbola will take a quick break, catch our breath, and come back, and then we'll now focus on what this administration, the incoming administration, will be doing with regards assets declaration and, of course, corruption.
Okay, thank you.
The conversation on assets declaration continues with Mr. Agboluaje after this break. Stay with Business Morning.